Good morning, everyone. I'm loving all the energy in the room, but we are going to have to gavel in here in a moment. So I just wanted to give you a last few moments to get seated and settled in your chairs. All righty.
Right.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 2nd, 2024 Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. I am so grateful to see you all today and to have all of your magnetic energy here with us. So we're going to get started.
Right. Thank you, Director Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners is now meeting as the Washington County Housing Authority Board of Directors, meeting this regular session, April 2nd, 2024. Director Roper.
Director Roper? Just wave. Oh, we lost her.
Okay, we will get her back. Director Servi.
Here.
Director Rogers.
Here.
Director Treese.
Here.
Director Willie.
Here.
Director Fye.
Present.
Director Harrington.
Here. All righty. We have a short but mighty agenda for the Housing Authority Board of Directors today. The first, the next item is the public communication opportunity for the Housing Authority Board of Directors. If anyone in the community wishes to engage with us in this board formation, now is your time to do so. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Director Harrington. I did not see any members sign up for the Housing Authority. Would any members in the auditorium wish to provide comment for up to 2 minutes on any Housing Authority related topic? Give you just a moment to raise hand, come forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any members online via Zoom wish to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and today's consent agenda consists of the approval of the minutes for our February 6th, 2024 meeting. What are the wishes of the Board of Directors?
A motion to approve the minutes. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting this consent agenda, please raise your hand or say aye. Thank you, Directors. Any opposed? The motion carries 6-0. Next, we have a presentation from our Housing Director and staff on the Section 18 disposition. Welcome.
My name is Molly Rogers. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Washington County. I'm joined today by Melissa Sansala, our Policy and Planning Manager, and we're here to provide an update regarding the approval and plans of what U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, calls Section 18 disposition. Please know that we are not requesting any action at this time. This presentation is meant to provide you an update on our initial planning efforts, what policy questions will require public and resident engagement, and provide some context setting as we begin to assess the individual needs of the public housing residents who will be affected by these changes. Section 18 is a HUD initiative that allows public housing authorities to request permission to demolish and or sell public housing property. It's a relatively common activity in other housing authorities due to the long-standing financial and challenges in public housing, specifically when it comes to single-family homes that have been largely utilized for this program. Section 18 is HUD's program that allows us to sell inefficient or distressed public housing homes at fair market value while protecting the current residents from losing federal subsidy. These residents will receive a Section 8 voucher. The Housing Authority has been working on this process for quite some time. As you may or may not recall, we actually came to you in October of 2019 for initial approval, and then we submitted approval application in 2021. You approved it at that time. We received approval from HUD just a couple months ago, actually on December 13th, 2023, to dispose of 60 of our 244 public housing units that we own under our HAWK umbrella. This activity will be part of a larger real estate strategy to consider the position of the Housing Authority's portfolio in order to ensure that our affordable housing is sustainable and kept at a high quality. On the public housing side, 46% of the current portfolio are single-family homes. Single-family homes are considered more expensive to maintain, and it can be very costly to renovate than multifamily homes, especially given the age of these particular homes. All 60 of the units approved for disposition are single-family homes. Also, federal funding for capital expenses under the public housing program has been notoriously unstable. Even with increases in the public housing capital fund that we've experienced over the last couple of years, we can't quite get through our full backlog of renovation. And this is I just want to point out, this is the case nationally and not just in Washington County. This is the geographic spread of the 60 single-family homes that we have been approved for disposition. As you can see, they're spread all over the county. But that's also one of the elements that makes it even more costly for us to maintain. This is really the staff, the distance that they have to travel in order to maintain each of the buildings. It creates a little bit less efficiency than if you can go to a multifamily home and you can create efficiencies in staffing, supplies, and capital improvements. Next slide. And as I said earlier, this is an initiative that staff have been working on for quite some time, beginning in 2019. So the application was submitted in 2021 after our HBOD approval, and we received approval from HUD to move forward in December. So we're now in the planning and preparation phase of this initiative. And because we have families living in all but one of these homes at this moment, it's very important we take our time. We need to deliberate on the best way to approach the change in their family situation. We want to make sure we're fully prepared before the families are asked to move. So we're currently in the process of finalizing the team. We're actually going to be hiring someone to coordinate all of our work internally, responsible for the program, and we'll be establishing our need for contracts and consultants and making sure we've considered all of our options and the policy considerations. And now I'd like to turn over to Melissa.
For the record, my name is Melissa Sensala. I'm the Policy and Planning Manager for the Department of Housing Services. So while the goal here is to reposition our public housing portfolio to make it more stable and efficient, a really corresponding goal is to make sure that we are supporting our residents in this transition, because we do recognize that it is an impact for the families who are currently living in those houses. So we want to make sure that we're staying engaged with residents at every step of this process. We do have a dedicated community engagement coordinator who will work directly with residents and with the consultants who will assist residents in their relocation process. We are prioritizing resident communication at every step. For some of our residents, we'll be creating opportunities for them to become homeowners in this process. I'll speak a little bit more to that in a minute, but for most of these residents, we will be asking them to move. We want to do that really conscientiously and recognize that moving is stressful. I think moving is stressful for anyone. And so we want to do this with a lot of thought and care and make sure that we are supporting them every step of the way. This means setting realistic expectations about timelines, how long it takes, using a trauma-informed lens, and considering accessibility in our communications. So that includes, right now we're doing assessments to see who needs translation support, who needs reading support, all of those things. So we're really focused on that at this point. Like I said, the majority of the residents will need to move to a new unit. As Molly mentioned earlier, with a Section 18 disposition, HUD provides tenant protection vouchers. Those are basically the same as housing choice vouchers. They allow the residents to find a unit that fits their needs in the community, and the Housing Authority still pays a portion of their rent to ensure that their rent is affordable to their household. We will also be providing financial assistance for these households who need to move. Financial assistance can cover moving expenses, so physical moving truck expenses, security deposits, application fees, and utility hookups. So we really want to make sure that this is pretty seamless for these households. Additionally, we will contract with a service provider whose expertise is with relocation for these sorts of situations. So each household will have an individual a service provider who's working with them to help them find a new unit and to make that transition. We've already begun communicating with households. We sent them letters in January, February, updating them, letting them know that after all this time we've received approval and what they can expect in the next few months. We've got a web page up. That's what that link is. I should have took that out because it doesn't make any sense up there. But that's what that link is. It's the web page. It's got lots of information for our households, and we'll continue to update that if we have questions come in. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll be sending folks information about the home buying option and how to sort of engage with that step of the process. So again, we'll be using this disposition as an opportunity to offer some of these households the opportunity to become homeowners. We are partnering with Bienestar to offer homebuyer counseling to these households and support through the entire process. Bienestar will work with the residents to make sure they're financially prepared and understand the entire process, and then to support them through the whole thing. We are in the process of getting an updated estimate on the value of the houses. Since our application was submitted in 2021, our estimate is from 2021. And then from there, we will determine a discount structure for these households to make homeownership even more accessible for them. And we understand that homeownership is a big process, so we also want to give these households plenty of time. We're still working on the timeline, but we anticipate we'll give households more than a year to get through this entire process. Coincidentally, we already have an example of one of our public housing households successfully buying a home. Although outside of this Section 18 process, it's still really nice to highlight this. The tenant shown here, Ms. Casares, has lived in her public housing home with her family for almost 10 years. She was coming up on 10 years, and she let us know last month that she has successfully purchased a 3-bedroom home and will be moving into that house. So this was just a perfect opportunity for us to publicly congratulate Mrs. Casares and her family on their move. So that's it. I'll give it to you.
All right, so with all that in mind, we've established 3 phases to get through all of this work, and we anticipate there'll be, of course, some overlap between the 3. The first priority is giving the current residents an opportunity to purchase their own homes. So we'll work with them, see which ones are interested, see what their financial capabilities are, and see if we can put additional subsidies or tools towards that opportunity. Then we'll also set aside some of those homes as we work through that second phase. Second priority is then working with our local community-based organizations who are hoping to be able to purchase a number of these in bulk to preserve affordable housing in the community. At this step, we may also explore offering the homes to some of our other public housing residents or rent assistance recipients who are prepared to explore homeownership. Our current values right now are based on 2021, so we need to first find out what the change has been since that time, and then updating and establishing, we hope, a discounted program that we'd come back to you to help set that policy between the current residents and, of course, a community-based organization potentially purchasing the homes. And then at last, if there are still homes remaining, we would then sell it to the general market. The 2021 estimate of value was based on the sales income assumed around $22 million of sales proceeds of these homes. We expect about $2 to $3 million to be for staffing and expenses, brokerage, legal, and other relocation fees. So we're anticipating somewhere between 18 and 20 million in proceeds. These proceeds will be reinvested into our affordable housing portfolio through either continued renovation of our existing buildings, acquisition of new buildings or development of new affordable housing, and also can be used for the remaining public housing and make sure those are maintained as well. Since HUD provides rent assistance vouchers for the 60 affected households, that will, overall, there will be a net increase in the total number of affordable housing we'll eventually be able to offer to the community as a part of this as a result. So it's really a win-win process for us. Again, as we are, next slide. As we are planning in preparation of this process, we plan to come back to you with an update to the board at key moments and intervals. We expect the next one will be around August and September, when we have an updated estimate values on the homes and a more finalized budget, as well as as we get a sense of how many of the current households want to purchase their own homes. And with that, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
First, I would like to recognize that Director Roper was able to get back into the meeting during the course of this whole topic. So I wanted to recommend.
Actually, I heard the whole presentation. Sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties.
No problem. We're glad to have you. So I just wanted to get that out on the record. So Director Roper, as well as all the directors here in the room, do you have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese. Director Treese.
Thank you, Director Harrington. I thank you for this presentation. It's very thorough. I appreciate it. I have a couple questions. The first one is, of the 60 homes, I think I missed, how many do you anticipate will be purchased by residents that will be moving?
That's what we're trying to assess right now.
So you
We're
don't
working
know
with
exact-
Sienna Star. We don't know an exact number amount, but that's what the letter that we're putting out in the next couple weeks.
Will
I
determine.
wanted to make sure we're updating you now in case we start hearing directly from those residents who may come and say, I have an interest in buying my own home. They've done some initial outreach already. We have a sense that maybe about half a dozen are interested, but we want to go through a formal process to let them to indicate their interest.
And the second question is, do we have an inventory of matching size locations for these people that are going to be moving? And I'm thinking that the homes are probably 2 and 3 bedroom homes. And will there be availability of that type of living in multifamily locations?
So just for clarification, the existing 60 will have, if they don't purchase their own home, will then have the opportunity to go rent anywhere in the market.
Okay, I'm
Anywhere.
sorry. Thank you.
So
I
it
did
could
not
be, we're
understand.
hoping they can find equivalent size homes. They will get a voucher that will be the equivalent,
Okay.
the number of bedrooms that meets their household's needs.
Okay.
Now, so it doesn't mean they're going to move right into our affordable housing restricted portfolio. We're just hoping when we replace these units, we'll replace them in a more affordable housing sprinkled throughout the community.
And is your anticipation that there is availability in the rental market?
That's what we're gonna hire a relocation consultant to help them match and navigate the housing market here. We do know we don't have as many, 3 or 4 bedrooms in this community as, say, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and that's why they're gonna have to work with each of the households to.
That would be my concern, is inventory availability.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other directors?
Director Roper?
Yes, let me put my raised hand sign down. So with the housing market being as expensive as it is currently, what does it look like for these families for what you guys are going to be able to support with these vouchers? Is it going to be this equivalent to what they're doing now, or do you guys have budget for that? Because the market is quite high.
Yep, I can answer that. So it's not exactly a one-to-one. On the public housing side, some families have an option to pay something called flat rent. It's relatively uncommon, but we do have a couple of families who are paying flat rent, and so their rent will look different when they move into an apartment, but their rents will continue to be based on their income. It's approximately 30% of their household income that they will be responsible for paying at their new unit. and their voucher will take care of the rest of that rent up to a reasonable rent standard. So we are confident that we'll be able to continue to assure that these families are still living in affordable rent situations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Navarro?
Kind of building on that, I've never heard of the tenant protection vouchers, so that this is new for me. So I'm curious. They sound very similar to HCV vouchers. I think kind of the concern, I think maybe some of us are looking at, and I'm sure you all are exploring too, is like what that FMR limit will be. And so I'm curious if like oftentimes a barrier for an HCV family is that they have limited time to be able to find the unit and move in and make all that happen. I'm really happy to hear you guys are thinking about financial assistance and the actual services to be able to accompany the relocation. I am wondering, like, with that FMR, I'm assuming you're going to do a rent reasonableness calculation and some type of FMR limit. Is there any potential that we need to offer additional subsidy beyond what the federal TPV voucher is offering in order to make sure someone is stably transitioned? And is that something that you all are kind of anticipating? I'm thinking about other local options maybe that could be a good supplement. So any thoughts around that FMR I think will be the real trick to make sure that we can actually get folks into the right units.
Yeah, but we haven't explored anything directly related to this on changing FMRs for this, but we in our last moving to work MTW waiver request, we did change our payment standards so that if folks are moving into a building where it has required affordability, so a tax credit building, for example, those buildings do actually have we are offering a higher FMR for those buildings. So that coupled with this relocation firm that really specializes, this is the work they do because this is common with housing authorities, really specializes in helping families find appropriate units for them that work for their family situation. Plus our extended timeline, we are looking at an extended timeline for this. We're really confident and focused on making sure that this is a good transition for families.
HUD would love to see us dispose of all of these homes within the first year, but they recognize a lot of other housing authorities have had to extend, a couple of years beyond that, and we want to be able to extend as much time as possible to allow for those current households to find the appropriate housing for themselves. We're happy to put in, as long as we show progress to HUD, we believe we'll be fine. But we're having to update them along the way as well of the progress, and that's why we're thinking about it as 3 phases. To make sure that we show that progress to HUD, but we're giving as much time on the upfront ones for those existing residents.
You just said 3 phases. Are you meaning the 3 priorities?
Correct. The 3 priorities in terms of what we call first opportunity to purchase, second opportunity to purchase, and third opportunity. So I had it as phases in my brain.
Any other director questions or comments? Go ahead, Director Willie.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. I'm happy that we're going through and doing this evaluation. Putting 60 homes, single-family homes, on the market seems to be problematic from the standpoint of you're going to have a lot of interest in this, both from the private sector and, as you indicated, the public sector. You're going to have individuals who want to buy these houses relatively cheap, as we've indicated, and flip them, put them back into the private sector. I don't know that all of that's bad, but so I did the math real quick. 22 million, 60 houses, $367,000 per house. That's reasonably affordable for a house purchase. That's a good thing. I really like the fact that we're encouraging and offering these households to be purchased by the people who are living in them, because they've been living in a single-family detached house, and now we're possibly putting them into an apartment complex. That's a big transition, maybe moving their kids from one school to another. So a little traumatic for that. And it sounds to me like you're really being sensitive to that. So I think that's certainly a top priority as well. So yeah, this is an interesting opportunity for us, but it is going to be a real project, and I'll look forward to hearing some of the unanticipated issues that you know that you're going to have. And so, yeah, thank you for this, and it's a great opportunity.
Director Roper, are you wanting to go again?
And I had a question as well. Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay. Well, my question is, when you go to the second priority, how would you announce that to your other housing participants or to the public? How would that be let known that that's an opportunity for them? Through mail or?
That's a great question. That's something that we're being really, really deliberate about, because we want to make sure that it's an opportunity that's presented equally to everyone. So when we're already communicating with some community partners who have already expressed interest, and we're letting them know that we need to do this as a process. We need to make sure that everyone has the opportunity. So we'll probably have a number of public meetings, both with community partners and then with residents and participants, and then just public meetings. So we will just make as much effort as we can to make sure that the word is out there.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. You've said that you're coming back to us potentially in August, September to do the update on the values and the potential of a discount program. I think the variety of questions that various directors have asked here shows that between the timeline slide and the process slide, we'd like to see a little bit more clarity. I know that I have benefited from your presentation today and bringing this to life, because when I first read this information, I thought, okay, disposition, there's this opportunity for home ownership, not only for those current occupants and residents, but also for any other members of our community who are having the opportunity of affordable housing vouchers or living in any of the Housing Authority portfolio units as well. And I think that's really good, right? Because it's that path to ownership and helping everyone have affordable housing. And I mention that because of the slide on one of your last slides here on the proposed use of the proceeds, right? It's not just about renewing and changing the portfolio, but and getting proceeds to reinvest, but ensuring that folks who may not otherwise have the opportunity for home ownership have that. So it's changing my expectations with regard to how you're operationalizing this program, such as through the priorities or the phases that you've talked about. It is a good thing that we're able to expand home ownership for those who might not otherwise have the opportunity. But as Director Willie highlighted, we do need to be prepared to look out for profiteering, and profiteering at whose expense. And, you know, government does not provide the housing market. We have very specific roles, but our entire community and our nation are reliant upon the private housing market as well. So no one is saying to any of these current tenants in these 60 units that you have to go to apartment living. Rather, what you have accurately described is if they do not want to take on home ownership, they have this voucher, right, that continues to enable them to secure a housing solution given certain parameters, right, the reasonable rates that you talked about, while also contributing their 30% of household income. So the last comment I want to share is, by virtue of your presentation today and the way you're proceeding to have consultants help with expertise, but also the engagement, not only for these tenants, but the other community members who are enrolled in our affordable housing programs, our community is in really good hands. So thank you for your care and due diligence. I know that this full board will learn more through the update that you're going to be bringing forward to us as you continue to operationalize all of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay. Next, we have our second public comment opportunity for the Housing Authority Board of Directors. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Director Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up that came in the room as the meeting was going on. Would any member in the auditorium wish to provide comment for up to 5 minutes on any housing-related topic? Give you just a moment, raise your hand or come forward. Not seeing anyone in the room. Would any member online via Zoom wish to provide public comment on any housing-related item for up to 5 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Director Harrington.
Thank you very much. Are there any board announcements from the Housing Authority Board of Directors for today? Seeing none, then, I would ask for a motion to adjourn today's Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote to raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you, directors. And in a moment, we will switch over to the Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Alrighty. Good morning, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for hanging in there with us as we had the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting before our regular Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. Clerk Moss, could you do us the honors, please?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting this regular session, April 2nd, 2024. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Commissioner Rogers? Here. Vice Chair Fye?
Present.
Chair Harrington.
Here. We are really blessed to have all of you joining us today, so thank you. We have a lot of different things on our agenda today, so we're going to get right to it. The next item is public communication. This is an opportunity for community members to come and engage with us and share whatever they would like for up to 2 minutes an individual. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. First up, we have Jeffrey DeWitz. Jeffrey, forward. And I'll admit he submitted written testimony here, so I will provide a copy to the board after the meeting.
Good morning, Commissioners. My full name is Jeffrey Michael DeWitz. I'm a resident of Aloha, Oregon. My livability issue, roosters in subdivisions. Washington County incorporated cities have banned roosters for a good reason. The 24/7 noise nuisance, especially between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. in residential subdivisions, is excessive and unreasonable and degrades the peace and quiet and livability of next-door neighbors and the communities. An urban incorporated ban works because they are banning roosters within the urban populated city limits with neighboring homes subjected to the close proximity of the noise of a crowing rooster 24/7. An urban unincorporated community ban alone is understood to be problematic because it affects the urban rural areas where homes are located on acreage and farms away from close proximity of residential homes, properties with acreage to distance roosters from subdivisions. The 24/7 crowing of a rooster next door is nothing less than a private noise nuisance. My wife and I live on Southwest Pike Street in Aloha, Oregon. Our master bedroom window and backyard deck is just 30 feet from a coop next door and from the chronic 24/7 noise of a rooster crowing. The crowing decibel level is equivalent to a dog barking. There are times when we are awakened multiple times in the early morning hours by the crowing. My wife suffers from sleep deprivation as a result, which degrades her health along with her MS disability. Oftentimes, she's usually in bed. The noise nuisance has been going on for more than 2 years and has become both a physical and mental health issue to her. Plus, in the last year, 2 more homes just a half block away from our home have harbored roosters. We now hear 3 roosters crowing at any given time, 24/7. This chronic private nuisance is getting out of control in our neighborhood and in unincorporated subdivisions with no rooster regulations. My petition and solution, I've given this a lot of thought. A rooster ban ordinance in Washington County urban unincorporated communities within 200 feet of any residential property line, or consider a ban in zones that are high-density populations, in other words, subdivisions. The opposition of homeowners with acreage and farm owners in urban unincorporated communities to ban roosters is understood when you have properties with acreage wishing to raise chickens with roosters. A 200-foot ordinance for residential property lines or a zoning ordinance is a simple solution and a win-win. A win for the homeowners in subdivisions desiring peace and quiet, and a win for homeowners with acreage and farm owners who desire to have roosters on their property. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry for the imposition that this is causing you and your family. We will take your written testimony, and our county staff will follow up. It is a sad fact that we as a county government do not have the level of resources that cities have for code enforcement of rooster bans. It's just a harsh reality. And so we're doing the best we can with our limited resources, and it does have an impact.
Which I understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware of that too. Yeah.
It's really hard. Sorry. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, would any other member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes on any counter-related topic? Give you just a moment to raise your hand or come forward. I'm not seeing one in the room. Would anyone on Zoom wish to provide public comment on any counter-related topic for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 15 different items. 1 set of minutes, 4 items from Clean Water Services, 1 from Health and Human Services, 3 from Facilities, Fleets, and Parks, 1 from Housing Services, 5 from Land Use and Transportation. What are the wishes of the commission?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting today's consent agenda, thank you for raising your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we have some board and commission items. The first one is a proposal to appoint 2 community members to the Clean Water Services Advisory Commission, also known as CWAC. There is the position 3 position, appointment of Terry Song. We're glad to have him. He's transitioned out of his business role and is able to come back to us in a District 3 position. And Ashley Farrell moving to the Business 1 position. Each of these appointments would have terms expiring September 30th of 2027. What are the wishes of the Clean Water Services Board of Directors for these appointments?
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Next, we're going to move on to a proposal to appoint members to our Washington County Housing Advisory Committee. We have a proposal to appoint Nathan Teskey as a member of this committee with a term ending March 31st of 2028. What are the wishes of the commission for this proposal?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. And next, we have a multi-part one for budget committee assignments. So 3 different committees. So I'm going to list them all off. We have appointing 3 residents of Washington County to the, combined Washington County and Service District for Lighting Number 1 Budget Committee. Sig Onder, Jeff Sarafa, and Melissa Laird to fill positions with terms that expire June 30th, 2024 and June 30th, 2026, respectively. Also, to appoint 2 residents of the county to the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District and Combined Urban Road Maintenance District Budget Committee. The appointments would be for Darren Campbell and Pradnya Patil to fill positions with terms that expire June 30th, 2024 and June 30th, 2025, respectively. And lastly, to reappoint Dan Reed to the North Bethany Service District for Roads Budget Committee to fill that position with a term that will expire June 30th of 2026. What are the wishes of the commission with regard to these appointments?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Treese. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. We've got another set of appointments. These are really important boards and commissions that help to advise us and get important work done in service to community. Another 2 committees, these are related to Parks and Recreation. We have a proposal to appoint to the Washington County Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to fill a midterm vacancy term ending June 30th, 2025. Thank you to Patrick McGee, K.S. Venkaradaman, and Ronnie Smith, and also fill a midterm vacancy term ending June 30th, 2026 to Kim Jensen, Jeffrey Moxie, and Nicole Gerling, and to appoint a term ending June 30th, 2027 to Brad Bittle, Sarah Chin, and Megan McKibben. Another committee to appoint to the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board to fill a midterm vacancy term ending June 30th, 2025, Susan Harris, Michael Meadows, and to fill a midterm vacancy ending June 30th, 2026 to Jordan Silk, Thomas McGowan, Patty Bechthel, and to appoint a term ending June 30th, 2027, Wilton Cloud and Carl Fisher. And lastly, to appoint to an alternate seat term ending June 30th, 2027, Timothy Anderson. So those 2 different committees with various committee members in various terms. What are the wishes of the commission?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. And one last, there are various vacancies on different committees. I won't run through the list. They are part of our packet today. But what are the wishes of the commission with regard to posting these vacancies?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Chair, could I make one correction?
Yes, sir.
Just so that Megan McKibben doesn't freak out and think we
Oh.
just appointed her to a
Thank you.
committee. It was actually Megan McMillan.
Who I know, so that's doubly embarrassing. Oh,
So-
dear. My apologies to each Megan. Yes, Megan McMillan didn't realize that she's now working for Washington County, too. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for catching my faux pas to each of you. Yes, I thank you each. Okay, we have a presentation that's important and 4 proclamations, which is probably why we have so many great people in our audience today. First, we're going to move to a presentation of the Metro Regional Supportive Housing Services Year 2, Fiscal Year 23 Regional Annual Report. And I know we have a guest speaker and Washington County staff for this, or thought. I think they're a little surprised. Welcome, and thank you for being here with us. If you wouldn't mind, Ms. Larson kicking us off today. Thank you.
Happily. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board of Commissioners. Jess Larson, she, her pronouns, your Assistant Director in the Department of Housing Services, for the record. Pleasure to be with you this morning and to be here with our colleagues from the Oversight Committee, the Regional Supportive Housing Services Oversight Committee, and our colleagues at Metro. We have Liam Frost, the Deputy Director of the Housing Department, Mike Savara, who you know well, who also serves on our Oversight Committee, and Susan Emmons, the co-chair of the Oversight Committee. They've are bringing to you the annual report of Program Year 2 of the Supportive Housing Services Program. So a compilation of all of the findings, recommendations, successes, challenges from Year 2 that ended in June of 2023, and will help guide our continued programmatic work here in Year 4 and going, here in Year 3 and going forward into Year 4. So we just really appreciate their work, their leadership, and their partnership in helping us to remain accountable to voters and to continue to strive ambitiously forward with this game-changing, community-led regional measure. So with that, I'll turn it over to our colleagues.
Thank you, Jess. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Liam Frost. For the record, I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm the Deputy Director of Metro Housing Department, as Jess mentioned. And I'm really just here to kick us off today and support our Oversight Committee members. I'll be using the clicker for them. That's really my core function today. But I also wanted to provide you some introductory context. This is the second time that this report has come before you. It is entirely generated by the Oversight Committee's input and suggestions, and is supported by Metro staff in putting it together, and one of our amazing consultants, Chris Smock. It's important to note that it is also required by ballot measure 26-210, otherwise known as the Supportive Housing Services Measure, passed by voters across the region in May 2020. Specifically, the measure requires the Oversight Committee to assess performance, challenges, and outcomes on an annual basis, and to present this information to all 4 relevant jurisdictions. We've already presented in front of Metro Council. You are the first county board that we are visiting, and we're happy to be here today. The report before you today focuses on fiscal year 2023, so that's from July 22 through June 2023, so the second full year of SHS programming. Also, the data presented to you should not be any surprise to you, since that has already presented to you a number of times, I imagine. And while there will be some information specific to Washington County today, please keep in mind that the report is regional in nature, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
Lovely. Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you all. I'm just going to kind of kick it off really quick with a couple pieces, just kind of stepping back and reflecting a little bit on what the Oversight Committee has really been seeing A couple pieces that, I think we want to highlight is that overall things are working. We're seeing progress, we're seeing growth, and we're seeing these services that are game-changing, as Jess said, really make an impact in communities. I also just want to highlight the importance of the collaboration from the county, especially from our Chair Harrington, who serves on both the Tri-County Advisory Board, Planning Board, as well as the Oversight Committee itself. So we so appreciate Chair Harrington's leadership and the contributions that you bring specifically to our work and our discussions, and definitely appreciate all of the engagement and leadership you bring to this work. So with that, I'll move to the next slide. Just talk really quickly through our agenda today. And want to make sure that we're sort of highlighting the pieces of this. Again, there's, I think, 26 slides, and we want to make sure there's time for questions and move through things quickly. So definitely thinking through our pieces here. I think want to talk through the role of this committee, sort of what it is and what it's not. So the Oversight Committee plays a really key role. It's a part of the ballot measure itself. The roles and responsibilities include fiscal oversight, recommendations to the council regarding the local implementation plans, approvals and changes, and as well as just oversight of the ongoing commitments that counties have made. On behalf of Metro Council, it also provides independent program oversight to ensure accountability to taxpayers, service participants, and our regional community. The committee is made up of 15 community volunteers with diverse experiences, including experiences of housing stability and homelessness. One primary way that the committee carries out its role is to accept and review the annual reports, and then prepare a regional annual report, which we're here presenting on, that assesses overall performance, challenges, and outcomes to the program year. So presenting to the council and the 3 county boards is really what the next step over the next few months is going to be looking like. And with that, I will kind of dive into some of the regional goals. Just as a reminder, again, you all are experts on this. You've seen this for the last few years, I am sure. These are goals, so these are the floors, not the ceiling. And so big, lofty goals that the region has set is really to reduce barriers to housing stability for communities of color, recognizing the fact that communities of color often experience disparate impacts with regards to housing outcomes, as well as connecting at least 5,000 households experiencing homelessness to permanent supportive housing, and then stabilizing at least 10,000 households at risk of or experiencing homelessness in permanent housing. Those are the big, broad goals. Each county and each has set individualized goals that we're going to dive into to better understand here next. And I'll pass to our co-chair, Susan, who can dive more into some of these performance goals.
So I'm thrilled to be here today. My name is Susan Emmons, and I use she, her pronouns. And I was among the original people who served on the Oversight Committee, and we started in October of 2020. And the other representatives from Washington County are Felicita Monteblanco. She was also one of the original members, Mitch Chilcott, Margarita Solis Ruiz, and then Jim Bain. Some of our newer members who've joined us. We're thrilled to have them. So this next slide is, again, we're going to click through these very quickly because I think the heart of our presentation today is our recommendations. But these are the FY23 regional performance to goals. And just a reminder of how these goals were developed were through the local implementation plans with considerable community engagement. Overall, met or exceeded the goals. As of year 2, SHS funded services and rent assistance supported the creation of 2,996 units of permanent supportive housing across the region. And once these units are fully leased up, they will represent 60% of the Supportive Housing Services Fund's 10-year goal of connecting 5,000 households experiencing prolonged homelessness with permanent housing, and almost 2,800 households served through eviction prevention in year 2. And these are really magnificent, outstanding numbers. And then the next slide, revenue collection and distribution. In FY 22-23, Metro's tax revenue totaled $347.3 million. This exceeded the FY 22-23 budget by $122.3 million. And the increase is due to spillover from tax year 2021 and widespread income growth. Really going quickly through these, but I think maybe some of this you've seen before. And the next slide is the spending. Spending in year 2 was significantly higher than the prior year as the program continued to ramp up. Overall, year 2 spending was $152.7 million, and this was 2.6 times higher than year 1. And we saw this growth across all 3 counties and Metro. Next slide is on our carryover funds. All counties had more carryover in year 2 than in year 1, which was expected due to the estimated 4 to 5 year program ramp-up period. Spend-down plans specific to carryover funds were provided by the counties as part of their FY 23-24 budget submission. And the plan included funding reserves, one-time investments, and increases in scalable programming. And again, we'll make time for you to ask questions about all of these. And then I'm going to pass it back to Mike for the next slide.
Thank you, Susan. So just a couple more key highlights we wanted to make sure folks were seeing. So again, talking about that progress towards those big goals, we've seen that almost 3,000 of 5,000 permanent supportive housing units have been created under the measure. I think one thing to highlight here is that counties have been very efficiently pairing supportive housing services funding dollars with the Metro bond funded housing projects to really effectively braid these funds together and ensure that these units are there. So I believe there are 571 units just that have utilized that strategy under that umbrella, which is just critical, really making sure that the expertise of all of the different jurisdictions are at play here. We're also seeing retention rates. Folks that are in those units, in those permanent supportive housing units, are very likely to stay. 98% of households placed in permanent supportive housing remain there 12 months later. Just as a quick side note, in this industry, those types of rates are really unheard of. This is a very extremely needed population. The services are quite vital, and as someone that's worked in permanent supportive housing before, it does not always look like this. And so really, we're excited about the progress. We're excited about the innovative work of our nonprofit partners that are on the front lines and supporting these folks every single day, but really excited to see those results and see where folks are actually able to stay stably housed as a result of the deeply affordable housing and permanent supportive housing investments. We're also seeing that the counties have continued to ensure that the disparities that we talked about earlier are continuing to be uplifted and addressed directly. So we're seeing BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color served in SHS programs at higher rates generally than their rates of that they're showing up in the general population. Again, really seeing these placements and seeing, in large part, because counties have chosen for intentional investment strategies with culturally specific partners, recognizing their expertise and the knowledge that they have in connecting with these communities. We've seen that $22.6 million has been directed towards 14 different culturally specific providers, which is a really great outcome that we're excited to see continue to grow. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more just specifically around where we're seeing the kind of county performance here in Washington County. I think the really critical piece here is that we're just continuing to see great progress from the team here, and I know we're really excited about the work that Washington County has been doing, really building this system from the ground up, and the performance results show here. So this is again sort of a detailed breakdown. That there's a more detailed breakdown in the report itself, but we're seeing that the county is meeting or exceeding all of the regional housing goals included in the work plan. We're continuing to see the results here that are just impressive and continuing to grow. I think the one piece, that rapid rehousing goal not being met, just as another aside, I want to note that my other role as the Special Initiatives Director at Oregon Housing Community Services, the county has met and exceeded their goal for the rapid rehousing under Governor Kotek's executive order. And so likely we're looking at some of these goals and seeing that progress and that pipeline continue to be built in real time. And so I think it's really important to note that while this program is really important, the county is doing a lot more than just this one project, and the state is asking a lot of local governments across the state to step into some new spaces, and we're super excited about the results that we're seeing on that front as well. So really excited about the progress and, again, the continued efforts to build this system from the ground up using community feedback and best practices. That's exactly what we're seeing out of Washington County. So let's pivot a little bit to talk about some of the challenges that we've seen. And again, these are regional challenges in implementing this measure. And so we're going to touch a few really quickly. So I want to just highlight the fact that many of these services did not exist. So we're infrastructure building. We're building it while we're seeing a growing need. The pandemic absolutely impacted communities across our state, across our country, and our region is no different. We're seeing that growing need of people who have needs for affordable housing, needs for ongoing supportive services, behavioral health, and other types of supports simultaneously while we're trying to build the infrastructure. So it is literally the definition of flying the plane as you build it, or building the plane as you fly it, whichever one you want to go with. And so I think that's just a really important piece to mention. The spending pieces of that are an important part that I would say our oversight committee is deeply engaged in. Every single meeting we are asking about the data, asking about the spending, asking about how counties are doing, and holding folks accountable to their words and making sure that we're continuing to show up in this way. So I think that's a really important piece, that we're seeing that improvement, we're seeing that growth, as Susan mentioned again, from year 1 to year 2, is just an unheard of level of growth in that infrastructure building phase. A couple other things I'll just highlight is that our workforce is a big part of this equation. So you cannot build a system overnight without the supports of these nonprofit partners that are doing this work, and they need our support, they need our help. And I think counties are really trying to show up in specific ways, listening to those executive directors of those nonprofits to say, what do you need and how can we support you? They're finding innovative ways of building some of these capacity building investments that are not just one time in nature, but can bring ongoing supports for these nonprofits that are doing that vital work. So again, it's all connected. If you want to build this infrastructure out and you want to accomplish these big goals, we need a workforce that has livable wages and really committed to making sure that people have that can stay in their jobs. Doing this work, it's relational. And so if you don't have people that are committed to and able to stay in these roles, you're not going to have the success and the outcomes that you need to see. So I think it's really important, and we're excited to see that counties are committed to making sure that's a piece of this. The last one I'll highlight here is just data. It's just an ongoing need. Again, as you build out a system, we're building this in line with how the federal government also funds and creates systems. And there's problems with the way the federal government has rolled out their data systems at the national level, and the counties are really trying to pivot and understand how those pieces fit in. I think this is a really important part of where Metro as a regional government is coming into play and play a role as a convener and as a leader around some of these data issues to bring the 3 continuums of care into alignment around how data practices are looking. So we're excited about some of those work pieces as well. All right, I'll pause there and pass it back to the co-chair.
Okay, so our process was fairly prodigious in coming up with these recommendations. Each of the counties came to our oversight committee last November, and they presented their annual report. And then in December, as a committee, we talked about what were the themes that we'd been seeing in the first year and carrying over to the second year that we wanted to stress in the annual report. How did we want to prepare for going into this? In January, we had 2 meetings where we started reviewing our recommendations from the first year, saying, did we want to stick with these recommendations? Did we want to come up with new recommendations? What did we want to stress? What did we want to highlight? 2 meetings in January, and then 2 meetings in February. We had a consultant, Chris Smock, who wrote the annual report. We got to review the annual report. We looked at the recommendations, worked on them, edited them, and our hope was to come to a consensus on the recommendations. We have a very diverse group of 15 people, and we did come to consensus. And again, Metro staff are currently working on project managing these recommendations, so we will get updates. And so, next slide. The recommendations are from FY20, were multi-year bodies of work, so we didn't expect that these would be accomplished in the first year. We knew that this was ongoing work, and it continues. So just to acknowledge that they were multi-year bodies of work. And so the next slide, so our first recommendation, and you heard this from me and as we were presenting last year, that we want a very robust regional communication strategy. And again, I would say this is a recommendation that we're making to Metro. We understand the counties have a role, and we understand that individual counties are doing their own work. And I just want to say congratulations, Washington County. I don't always get an Oregonian, but I had a call from a friend, go get this Sunday Oregonian, Susan, you will be thrilled. And I was, beautiful, beautiful work. I mean, this is exactly what we want to see. We want the community to understand. We know there's really good work going on with our supportive housing services dollars, but we want a robust strategy that gets out into the community so our community members understand what we're purchasing with these dollars. And I would say I represent Multnomah County. I think our communications is very weak in Multnomah County, and I hear all the time from neighbors, relatives, former colleagues, you know, what is happening with this money? So again, our Oversight Committee, strong commitment to provide accurate and trustworthy data and information to the community. And it's just an ongoing recommendation. We had this recommendation last year. I'd also just like to say and commend you. I thought your annual report was just excellent. I did ask Jess for extra copies and distributed as far as I could, but I think you are doing a wonderful job in your county of getting the word out, and I think we want this, you know, for every county and regionally. So the next slide, the next recommendation is on financial and data transparency and accountability. And again, you know, the idea was we had this last year, but just to strengthen the information we get as an oversight committee to make sure that it's consistent, that we're using consistent language, that it's budget to actual. And I think we really have made progress on this. I think there's more work to be done to work with the counties for Metro to lead in the development of tools and definitions and methodologies. And again, we didn't get to a good methodology of reporting out the spending on population A and B. And it was very helpful to me as an oversight committee to have Mike join us and from a state perspective say, yeah, we've struggled with this at a state level too. How does the system that we're working with translate into reporting this? And so the goal is for Metro to come back with a template with the counties, I think present it to our oversight committee later this spring, and then the counties to go back and be able to do that on year 3 so that we get a really clear report on our population A and population B spending. And then the next slide, again, financial and data transparency and accountability provide upfront guidance and support to counties on definitions and methodologies to increase the accuracy, reliability, and consistency of quarterly and annual reports, and clearly defining the 10-year goals, aligning programmatic reporting and definitions. And again, sometimes, and I wouldn't say this is the fault of any of the counties in any way, but some counties will have permanent supportive housing, some counties will have what they're doing with the ARLA vouchers, and it isn't consistent as we get the information. And so we hope to just clean that up and just have more consistency. Again, I would say Washington County is the star in utilizing the long-term the ARLA vouchers, the long-term rent assistance. And for those of us who originally joined the committee in October of 2020, we were thrilled about these long-term rent assistance vouchers. We thought that was going to be the game changer throughout our system. And I think to see in your county that really being utilized just tells us so much about who is being served. And
where we're going with that. And then the next slide, financial and data transparency and accountability. And this is where we get to evaluation to inform improvement. And I would say from the very beginning when we started meeting as an oversight committee and said what was most important to each of us as members, to a person we mentioned evaluation. We wanted to be able to evaluate. We wanted to look at outcomes. We wanted to know what was working, what wasn't, and, you know, how did we improve the system? And so I think, again, that's a priority, to develop a framework for assessing service quality and service delivery methods and assessing how well we're doing with this, with these programs. And so I'll pass it back to Mike.
Thank you so much, Susan. All right, so I want to highlight a few more of our recommendations around workforce and capacity issues next. So we already talked about the reason why this is such a critical part of it. Again, building this system from the ground up, we need to have an effective and qualified and workforce that is, you know, there and present in those roles. And so this is a big part of the strategy and recommendations that we're looking at. Each county has tried to address these regional capacity issues, I would say, in their own communities, in their own ways. Really, this recommendation is asking for Metro to step into a regional leadership role to sort of look at where the best practices are and make recommendations and build that infrastructure to say, here's what we are doing as a community, as a region, to move this forward. Because an organization in Washington County is you know, likely facing many of the same challenges as one in Multnomah or Clackamas. A few of the strategies that we're recommending are things like multi-year capacity building investments, regional training and capacity building support for providers. I'll just note that I think this is a really big part of making sure there is capacity, is making sure that we can lift the burden from nonprofits around training their workforce in that capacity. If you're always having to retrain folks and there's not really templates for that, it's a constant drain on those resources. So if we can sort of build that infrastructure to really train folks up, I think that's going to be far more effective. I also think it's really important that this capacity building piece focuses on small, emerging, and culturally specific providers as a really big focus that we want to emphasize as a part of that workforce capacity building strategy. And then if we can go to the next slide, I think kind of diving deeper into this, providing these multi-year capacity buildings, and I'll just note too, I think this is something that the metro area is really leading on. I think the state has been trying to figure out how do we build that capacity across the entire state, and really been looking to what things are working here in the metro area to try to understand better. So I think this regional strategy around providing these multi-year capacity building, because just providing a single year capacity building investment doesn't always improve livability or wages. You might be able to do bonuses with those things, but there's real mechanics that we have to inform the strategies, and that multi-year capacity can be a big part of this. If we can go to the next slide. So again, really thinking about where we can go with instituting livable wages. This work is hard. The providers that are doing the work every day, working in shelters, working in outreach, working in permanent supportive housing, they often work long hours and thankless hours at times. And we want to better address that service provider wage and thinking about how we can analyze the information. We've already done a lot of analysis. The Nonprofit Association of Oregon has been partnered with us and with Metro, I know, in the last few years to better understand how nonprofits are thinking about what their pressure points are. And so really bringing this in and helping support those nonprofits with better uplifting all of their wages is a really critical part of this strategy. We can go to the next piece here. And I'll also note that a lot of these workforce and capacity recommendations are directly connected to the Tri-County Planning Body. So I think this is a good example of where some of the overlap in roles and really the collaboration between the various different bodies that Metro has convened is a great piece here. So we're excited about kind of having that oversight role while the planning body is really implementing a lot of these recommendations a little closer to the ground. So I think the next piece I'll cover here is just streamlining the county administrative practices. This is something we've talked about a lot in our oversight committee piece. Things like how do we make sure that we can provide advance payments rather than only relying on reimbursement. Things like understanding how we can support nonprofits with some of the complexity around administrative rates or indirect costs. So these are the things that we want to try to dig into because of the flexible nature of these dollars. So I think a lot of our system is built, again, off of federal best practices and federal requirements. And if there's areas that we can improve and really align as a region around our practices, I think we're going to be able to build a system that really works for those that we're trying to serve. And we've really appreciated all of the counties engaging in these conversations, having these deep conversations with the finance staff to help us better understand where those pressure points are. The counties have been showing up in incredible ways and really trying to think outside the box to show up for our contracted providers. And then just the last slide here, last slide on kind of program expansions. Again, this is a big area where we want to see continued collaboration between health and behavioral health, because we know that a lot of the folks that we're serving are in need of these integrated services that are really continuing to go right at the heart of what folks actually need to end their homelessness and stay stably housed. And we're seeing really, really great examples of collaboration between behavioral health departments and housing departments. I think Washington County is doing a great job of having active, real-time conversations about real human beings that are on by name lists and that are needing services, and coordinating those services with county leaders, I think, is a really critical piece of this to make sure that the resources are going to where they need to be and actually activating that. So if we can go to the next slide here. Kind of building on that, I think this is where we want to think about, as we're moving out of sort of this initial, year two goals, and we're continuing to build that capacity. I think it's really about monitoring what we're seeing, monitoring areas that maybe didn't reach their goals. Why didn't they reach the goals? What could have been improved? How can we make sure that we're learning and constantly assessing the effectiveness of the strategies that we're doing? I think it's a mistake if we get stuck in, well, this is what we decided 3, 4, 5 years ago for our plan, and not actually allowing ourselves to learn as we're going. And I think that's been a really important part of this process in terms of implementing this measure, is that it's not just fixed in one place in time. It's actually wanting to learn and wanting to understand how we can grow. I think another piece of this is just monitoring that cross-sector alignment in programming to really assess what the region needs as a whole. And so again, really thinking about how we don't just do something, hope it works, and then not evaluate it, but we're actually constantly learning, and we're committed to that process. And then the last piece, a really big piece of conversation I think the Oversight Committee has had, is just around comprehensive outreach. In reading the article from this last weekend, I thought it was so helpful to frankly better understand, even as a Washington County resident myself, how the team has thought about the outreach strategy here in Washington County and dividing up the regions and trying to think about assigning contracted providers to each region, as well as overlaying the culturally specific providers that are going to be connecting with individuals that are part of their communities. Really excited about that comprehensive outreach strategy, and we know our region is truly a region. The MAX sort of connects us all, and if we're not thinking about the big picture between the counties and our outreach strategies, we're really going to be missing opportunities to align those services and better improve the outreach. So that was a lot of information. I will pass back to Susan to wrap us up.
Yeah, great presentation, Mike, and he's been such a wonderful addition to our committee, and he has so much knowledge and so much direct experience. Yeah, and I guess there are so many, human lives involved in this. I think the work in Washington County has just been excellent. Lives really are being transformed, and I'm sure you've heard the stories. Yes. Yes. Oh. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That there are lives that have been transformed, and we've heard them, in our committee, and it's just remarkable what's happening in your county, and I just think you've done just a fantastic job. You have a wonderful program, and we just have the highest regard for what's happening here. So, thank you.
Let me just kick this off for our board. Thank you to our co-chair extraordinaire, Susan Evans. You put a tremendous amount of energy and leadership into the Oversight Committee and ensuring that we all know that this program is made possible by voter-approved funding, and we need to follow through on that, and that we are changing people's lives and bringing it to life. And thank you, Mr. Savara, for serving on the SHS Oversight Committee. It is a big job to serve on this committee. The work they do is arduous, and I've been involved with a lot of committees in both my role here at Washington County and as a Metro counselor, and it is a lot of work, and I am grateful for it. But let me turn the stage over to my colleagues to see if they have any questions or comments they'd like to bring to life. Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair, and I would underscore your comments. I appreciate the comments that you made about our chairs and about the work that's been done, and I'd like to also extend that to our staff. What I heard you say, Susan, is the fact that the excellence that's around the Washington County implementation is remarkable and deserves accolades. And I also want to just make the statement, as we look to our future here, we intend to continue that excellence in actualizing the voters' intention around those dollars. I think that when I talk to my neighbors in Washington County, unlike your experience talking to your neighbors, they are pleased. And the Sunday Oregonian did outline that. And I just want to underscore that what we're doing in Washington County is different. It's different here, it looks different here, and we intend to keep doing things differently and effectively. So thank you very much.
Any other commissioners?
Mike.
Commissioner Rogers?
Mike, thank you for your, for everybody for your presentation. You moved from here to there, and that was a big shift, I guess. Do you chat about sustainability? One of the things that was important, I think, is that there was a program. You've done a great job, everybody, of highlighting what's happened to date. There's different moods on taxation and different ideas on what might happen in the future. Our region certainly is experiencing some issues with folks who are relocating elsewhere. Do you spend any time, or is it that, gee, we've done a terrific job and we all pat ourselves in the back, and I think that's justified, but what happens next?
I would say that one of the things that happened in our most recent oversight committee is Jess and her staff came and did what we hadn't seen before, which was a presentation taking the bond measure out the full 10 years and showing how they predicted they were going to spend it and what was going to happen with that money. And it was so impressive, you know, to say this isn't a 2-year or a 3-year measure. This was intended to be a 10-year measure. And here's where we expect to see, and here's where we expect to be, and here was our original local implementation plan, and here's how we're going to achieve it and possibly surpass it. And it was so impressive. It was just very well thought out. I think Clackamas County came later and clearly had looked at what Washington County did and had a similar thing. But it was just so helpful to us as oversight committee members to say, oh, you know, this isn't a 2-year plan. This isn't a 3-year plan. This is a 10-year plan. And here's where we're going to be in 10 years. You know, very compelling. And again, we have a plan that we worked on. We developed it at the ground level, and here's how we're going to achieve it. So I think, I just can't say enough, but I think that Washington County, you know, we don't want to play favorites, but I have to say you're in the lead in terms of if everybody measures up to Washington County in terms of how they perform. And, you know, I later heard from people at Multnomah County, yes, they want to do the same kind of 10-year projection and come back to us to show us. So it's very compelling. I mean, the combination of services and housing, you know, the housing's not going to work without the services for this chronically homeless population, but I think Washington County is getting there. And so I don't know if that's an adequate answer, but.
Anything else, Commissioner Rogers?
I don't think so. I just appreciate you taking a look at that. That we've discussed it at our table, and where do we go from here? So
Yeah.
glad you are as well.
Commissioner Willie?
Yeah, just a quick comment, Jess. Who'd have thunk? 2 years ago, you were just building this airplane, as Mike refers to it, and you've done a great job, you and your staff. So thank you for that, and thanks for bringing this very positive report to us. And we love accolades, so go ahead. We've got a lot of more time. We can do this. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Fye, anything?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Commissioner Willie. You did a great job tooting Washington County's horn, so I won't add on. The staff don't do a really, they don't toot their own horn, so it's really nice to be able to recognize publicly the great work that the staff put into this, and how close we are getting to really addressing the root cause of homelessness, and really appreciative of the voters voting into this and deciding to invest in chronic homelessness and how we address and get to that path of eradicating. I'm not sure we would ever eradicate homelessness as long as we have people on this earth, but it's great to hear that and great to be recognized. The great work that staff is doing. I did have a question around one of the slides, slide 8. I think, Susan, you covered. I think it's the slide around the carryover. Could you go back to some of your talking points and sort of just walk me through what the desired outcome is and how this second bullet will happen?
Actually, that's not a question for the co-chair, but rather it is for our staff, because we're the implementers. Jess?
Susan, you're off. Sounds like, Susan, you're off the hook then.
Oh,
You're in the hot seat.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner, the question is about carryover of $350 million or one-time investments, the second hashed part?
Second bullet.
Okay. Sorry, the hash under the second bullet?
So the
One-time
carryover,
investments and increases in scalable programs.
Okay, excellent. So in Washington County, our portion of investing our carryover funds, we have a carryover plan that is created at the end of each fiscal year, right? Your calendar year or your program year ends, you calculate what are the remaining funds that were not invested in the past year. Recently, that's been primarily the result of over collections or collections that weren't anticipated, unanticipated revenue. And some of that may also include spending that did not occur in the past year. And that becomes your new carryover balance heading into the next year. And we create a spending plan for that over 3 years. That is how the reporting works every August. That goes to Metro along with our new approved budget.
And if I could reinforce that, you went over this detail with the board in our January presentation that was in a business committee meeting about the update for the year 3 program that we're currently in, as well as direction in developing the year 4 work plan.
Yep.
So we've been through all of that, and so we are, as a county, putting those carryover dollars into action.
And then just a point of clarification for Commissioner Fye, this $350 million was for the previous fiscal year, and so we're projecting this upcoming fiscal year will be up to about $450 million. That's region-wide, by the way, not Washington County.
And then of that amount, some is carried over for Metro's budget, some is held for reserves required and recommended reserves, some is a regional investment fund, and then the rest is your bullet here that you're asking me to speak to, one-time investments and increases in scalable programs in Washington County. And we've identified 3 areas of investment for this part of our work. Capital needs to achieve our goals. We've made investments in shelters. We are bringing back planned investments in access centers next for you. We're working towards a supportive housing NOFO for transitional recovery housing. So capital investments to help achieve the housing programmatic goals. investments in our service providers for that capacity building year over year to get them to an organizational strength to sustain the program. And then the third is one-time programmatic expansion to kind of sustain the program. This has been primarily around eviction prevention to stave off the loss of funding from our COVID era, but that won't be sustained through the year-over-year long-term of the program. So those are the ways in which we're investing carryover funds programmatically and expect to have a plan to have them spent down in the next, I think, 3 years.
Thank you, Jess. My question was actually the carryover of the 350 million will be used, so both sub-bullets. So now, what would be,
Required by the program.
so what would be your answer to the first bullet point?
Excellent. So, and again, we have all of this data we can provide more substantially for the board. But aside from programmatic investments that we spend down in carryover, there is, well, it's a complicated delineation. Liam, I welcome you to help me answer this. But
Actually, we have 4 proclamations and a public hearing we need to get through. We've been over this information before, and Commissioner Fye is welcome to engage with you offline to go over that. Okay?
happy to follow up with you, Chair.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to provide my comments so we can get moving on. To our presenters, you know how proud we are as Washington County for the work that is happening here in our county and what a game changer the supportive housing service measure has been for our community. If we could go back to the slide presentation to slide 5, please. The part of what the Oversight Committee does is to recognize and bring to life the accomplishments for the year. So slide 5, as you see here, not all of the accomplishments have been articulated enough. Across our region, the 3 counties have met or exceeded the goals. Particularly for permanent housing, we're at 60% of the goal for the 10-year program. As the co-chair talked about, these are magnificent and outstanding numbers. I wish the Metro Council had had the opportunity of hearing that. Slide 9, please. Some other great accomplishments. These are the highlights for the 2nd year. We've only been doing this work for 2 years. And these are very impressive retention rates. 98% of those that have been provided permanent supportive housing services remain housed 1 year later. It's game-changing, particularly for people who have been what we call chronically homeless. To the next slide, slide 10, this is the one slide where the Metro Council saw a different slide. But much of that slide was not brought to life for them. So the key points. The county's year 2 activities and investments were well aligned with the local improvement plan priorities for the first phase. Phase 1 going from year 1 through year 3. Did you catch that? We're still in the first phase, building up these programs. Secondly, the counties, that would be all 3 of us, folks, made significant progress on their year 2 work plan goals. It's important that these messages get out to the region, but also that the 7 members of the Metro Council have the opportunity of hearing this. And lastly, rapid rehousing, we're a little slower on that one because it's a brand new program this year. And yet we have great outcomes and accomplishments there. The Metro Council is made up of 7 members. 2 members have districts primarily here in Washington County. One district is primarily in Clackamas County. There's certainly the at-large president, but there are 3 district commissioners who are primarily Multnomah County based. So not just those 4 who are hearing about Multnomah County in a big way, but all 7 of them need to have the opportunity to hear the results across all 3 counties. We can take the slides down now. After just 2.5 years, we have a system of care up and running, connecting people from homelessness to stable housing every day. Before these resources, our providers, particularly here in Washington County, had little more than granola bars, bus tickets, and severe weather shelters, winter only. And we required that people who needed support and places to rest their head safely and securely at night had to rotate between multiple church locations and a city community center. They don't have to go through that rotation all across our community anymore. I also want to bring to life that Metro has successfully hired the staff for the regional technical assistance and training. That's a big accomplishment in year 2, because this is where the counties identified need for supporting that capacity building with our community-based CBO organizations and service providers. Today, SHS funding is funding a coordinated system and including outreach workers. Here in Washington County alone, 426 year-round shelter beds and thousands of stable housing placements with rent assistance and case management services for people who used to be homeless. You may know that our teams are working on the next phase of this game-changing system. In early summer, here for Washington County alone, we'll be launching a capital notice of funding availability, NOFA, for transitional supportive housing and recovery housing because of the opportunity of this carryover funding. This isn't extra funding, folks. This is funding that we needed to scale up our programs and continue to invest. This is one of the service gaps that the Oversight Committee report has pointed to, and we couldn't agree more about how important this next phase of work is. Susan, I want to especially thank you and your fellow Oversight Committee members for your volunteer service, keeping our 3 counties and Metro accountable to the promise we all made to the voters in 2020, to end chronic homelessness and to make sure that the overall rate of homelessness does not increase. Those are the 2 things that we said we would be enabling through this game-changing funding. Measure 26-100 is a game changer. We're proud that despite rising homelessness across the county, in Oregon, the rates are decreasing here, and chronic homelessness was down 22% at last count. Through the course of today's presentation, 11 different recommendations were brought to life. 8 of those point to Metro. I'm not sure, having watched the presentation to the Metro Council, that they quite understand their responsibility and the need for them to ensure that their staff is accountable to the Oversight Committee on the 8 different recommendations, as you've seen here on slides 14 through 20 and 24. We attribute the success that we've had to the flexibility of the SHS measure and the partnership with Metro that allows our county to implement responsive and effective programming that is meeting our community needs. The SHS measure isn't restrictive with strings and red tape, though the amount of reporting is a bit arduous. But, you know, there is significant funding that the community is providing. And because of that, we've been able to have these early successes. Year 2 of a 10-year program is still quite early, folks. But it wouldn't have been possible here in Washington County or any of the 3 counties without it. As I am a participant on the SHS Oversight Committee and the Metro SHS Tri-County Planning Body myself, I can see how good results are happening across all 3 counties, Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County. We are making a difference, and we will continue our efforts to end chronic homelessness and keep the rate of homelessness from increasing, just as Commissioner Fye has noted, and that our voters have knowingly approved. So thank you for your report. We take these recommendations to heart, and I hope that you see how our teams are already putting these recommendations into action in this 3rd program year. We can see it through the fact that they're here before us not only annually, but also quarterly. And I hope that, well, I know that you've seen the efforts of our communications staff to engage with local media to ensure that the story across our region is being told. And I look forward to Metro building up its communication efforts to make sure that our community members have the opportunity to hear the positive results in Multnomah County and the positive results in Clackamas County as well. Thank you for investing your time and energy on the Oversight Committee and for working so very hard to make sure that we are successful in meeting the goals of the program. Thank you. So we'll give them just a moment to transition. We have, as I mentioned, 4 different proclamations. Thank you to our audience members for hanging in there with us, and 1 public hearing and a related action item. So our first public proclamation today is to proclaim April 1st through 7th, our current week, as Public Health Week. I'd like to invite Mira Samantel, the Director of Health and Human Services, and Dr. Marie Bowman-Davis, our Public Health Division Manager, up to take us through this proclamation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Chair Harrington. Good morning, Chair Harrington, Board of County Commissioners. For the record, my name is Mira Samantel. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Health and Human Services. It's an honor and a privilege to be here before you this week during National Public Health Week. I'm really just here, yes, I know, woohoo. I'm really just here to introduce Dr. Marie Bowman-Davis, our Public Health Division Manager and our local Public Health Administrator for Washington County. And she will introduce our presenters, but I also want to take a moment and just share appreciation for Marie and her leadership and dedication. She's an incredible leader, both here in Washington County, regionally, and across the state, and our accomplishments in public health wouldn't be possible without her. So thank you, Marie, and I will turn it over to you to introduce our presenters.
Well, thank you, Mira. That was unexpected and heartfelt and genuinely appreciated. For the record, my name is Marie Bowman-Davis, she, her, hers, Public Health Division Manager and local Public Health Administrator appointed by your board. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. It is so exciting to be with you today to celebrate another National Public Health Week. I just wanted to pause, and this is unscripted, but after hearing the presentations this morning, I just really wanted to stop and say, you know, Washington County, Oregon is the local public health authority. And your board is the governing body of that local public health authority. And all of you make decisions each and every day to benefit our Washington County community. You are a part of public health. So I just wanted to send appreciations to all of you for your efforts. We've heard housing, we've heard behavioral health, we've heard a number of connections, and that is your contributions that have been celebrated here today. So I will be turning this over to Highland, a representative from our Public Health Division, and Lucia, a representative of our Public Health Advisory Council, to give a brief presentation and share the proclamation. Thank you. Yes.
All right, for the record, my name is Highland Edelman, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a Climate and Health Program Coordinator in the Public Health Division. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners, and we do appreciate your support for recognizing Public Health Week today. So, National Public Health Week is recognized annually in the month of April, and this week, activities will take place from April 1st to April 7th. Our theme is Protecting, Connecting, and Thriving. We are all public health. So providing healthy food and nutrition education, monitoring air quality, providing home visits for families with new babies, supporting communities to prepare for emergencies, ensuring food safety, and managing and preventing communicable disease outbreaks. All of these are work our public health teams are doing to help our communities and neighborhoods thrive. And this week is all about celebrating that work that our staff and partners are doing who are making a difference in our community. And each day's activities have been coordinated by our small but stellar planning team and will be based around sub-themes like healthy neighborhoods, climate change, and new tools and innovations. As part of Washington County Public Health's programming this year, we're continuing our annual tradition of celebrating our employees and community-based organizations who are doing the incredible work to promote and support a culture of health and well-being in our community. This year, we received a total of 27 nominations for our awards across 4 categories, including the Public Health Ambassador Award, the Partner in Public Health Award, the Emerging Public Health Leader Award, and Washington County's Employee Award. This year's activities included a regional legislative visit yesterday to talk to legislators about some of the exciting new public health work we've been able to do with continued state funding, like mapping urban heat islands in our region. And Washington County Public Health staff will also be offering daily presentations connected to each day's sub-theme, including innovative methods for data collection of health data, connecting climate and public health, and demonstrations of life-saving techniques like CPR and stopping blood loss. And so I'll turn our attention over to Lucia Benavides from the Public Health Advisory Council to read our National Public Health Week proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. My name is Lucia Benavides, and I have served on the Public Health Advisory Council, also known as the FAC, since 2023. As a board-appointed council, the purpose of the FAC is to fulfill any federal and state-mandated responsibilities and to advise the board in its role as a government body of the local public health authority. The FAC makes recommendations to the board in areas of policy, program, and budget, and to the Public Health Division Manager in establishing policy and program objectives to support and improve our community health. I encourage members of the community to attend our meetings and to learn more about the public health system here in Washington County and to bring forward their thoughts about public health issues in our community. The FAC is very pleased to support the proclaiming April 1st through 7, 2024 as National Public Health Week in Washington County. And I am pleased to share with the board this year's National Public Health Week proclamation. Whereas the week of April 1st through 7, 2024 is National Public Health Week, and the theme is Protecting, Connecting, and Thriving, we are all public health. And whereas Washington County Public Health works in partnership with communities to improve and protect the public health through prevention, policy, regulation, and education, and whereas healthy people and healthy communities provide a foundation for a strong, diverse, and vibrant society, and whereas we recognize Black, Indigenous, Latinx, immigrants and refugees, and other people of color have wisdom, skills, and talents to empower and meaningfully engage with their communities to address the root causes of systemic health disparities and health inequities, And whereas although Washington County has made great strides with partners to improve the health and well-being of our community over the past 20 years, we still face public health challenges, including inequitable birth outcomes, adverse childhood experiences, educational disparities, and disproportionate burden of disease by race, ethnicity, and income status. And whereas a person's health status can differ drastically by zip code due to differences in the built environment, environmental quality, community context, and access to healthy food, education, quality childcare, and healthcare. Whereas Washington County Public Health is committed to engaging authentically with the community to provide culturally responsive and linguistically appropriate programs to services that are effective, equitable, and responsive to diverse cultural health beliefs, practices, and health literacy, and to leading with race to achieve health equity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on this second day of April 2024, the Washington County Board of Commissioners, acting as the local public health authority, does hereby proclaim the week of April 1st through 7th, 2024, as National Public Health Week in Washington County.
So, Commissioners, we have a proposed proclamation before us today. What are the wishes of the Commission with regard to adopting said proclamation?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor of adopting said proclamation, please raise your hand or say aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously 5-0. And since I see Maida there with a camera in her hand and following up on Ms. Bowman-Davis's remarks that we are all public health, may we memorialize this opportunity.
Thank you. If there are public health staff in the room, please feel free to come forward.
Yes. 3, 2, 1.
So we're going to move from public health to Fair Housing Month here in Washington County. And with that, I would like to invite Shannon Wilson, Molly Rogers, and John Miller up to join us today.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. My name is Shannon Wilson. I'm Program Manager for the Office of Community Development. And I'm joined with Molly Rogers, Director of Housing Services, and John Miller. Sorry, I was going to say John Williams, which is with Metro. Anyway, excuse me, John Miller, Interim Director of the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. So the Federal Fair Housing Act was passed 56 years ago in 1968, just 6 days after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. The act put into law equal access to housing regardless of one's race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity, familial status, and disability. The state of Oregon has additional protected classes of marital status and source of income. And so we commemorate the passage of this legislation with recognizing each April as Fair Housing Month. In Washington County, we work closely with the Fair Housing Council of Oregon Last fall, many of our staff and policy advisory board members had the opportunity to participate in the Fair Housing Bus Tour. And we're currently working with our partners in the city of Hillsboro on looking at establishing a bus tour that's focused on sites specific within Washington County. And so we're excited about that. And then we also jointly outreach to the community with the Fair Housing Council of Oregon and partner to conduct fair housing testing at rental housing locations. And so we appreciate the board's recognition of fair housing, and I will pass it to Molly. Thank you.
Commissioners, Molly Rogers, Director of Housing Services. Like the Office of Community Development, we believe fair housing is the cornerstone of the work we do at the Department of Housing Services. We know that Washington County residents face barriers to housing because of characteristics such as race, ethnicity, gender, immigration status, disability, and age. Fair housing is one of the overarching tools we use to eliminate these disparities while prioritizing services to populations disproportionately impacted by these disparities. Joining us today to make the proclamation is John Miller, who's been a long-time affordable housing advocate and champion, who happens to be the interim executive director of the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. John and I have known each other for almost 20 years, and I've seen how much his career from affordable housing, affordable homeownership, advocacy, consulting, and strategic visioning has been wholly focused on creating housing opportunities and, of course, the tenets of fair housing. Thank you for joining us today, John.
You're welcome. Thank you, Molly. Good to see you again. Thank you. I'm John Miller. I'm Interim Executive Director at Fair Housing Council of Oregon. I use he, him pronouns. So a couple of things. We're very excited at Fair Housing Council of Oregon right now. This is our big month, and so we've got several things going on. Each year we do have a poster contest, and we have poster contest winner that we will provide each of you with a poster that you can place in your offices. And this year our theme is let's have to read it again. It's fun having all kinds of neighbors, and we send that out to elementary schools all throughout the state, and we get entries throughout the state, and it's just wonderful to see all the great art that comes out. And this year, the grand prize winner was a third grader, which is very exciting for her and her family. So we also have several events I want to mention before we get to the proclamation, which I'll do in just a second. During the month of April, we have over a dozen events across the state that celebrate and educate about the importance of fair housing. You can go to our website, fhco.org/events, to find all those. Specifically, here in Washington County, we've got a display right outside the door that I really encourage you to take a look at. We just had that created. It really covers fair housing issues statewide. Our former one was more Portland-focused, so we're excited to have a more statewide look at the fair housing issues. We're also hosting a fair housing training at the Brookwood Library this Thursday at 6 p.m. So if you're interested in getting some training, you can join that. We also have a fair housing story time scheduled at Shute Park Library on April 18th. And for the full list, do visit our website. So with that, I will read the proclamation. Yes?
If I might just highlight that training session at the Brookwood Library. I think you said this Thursday night, starting at 6 p.m. This is a real easy opportunity for those people who have rental properties of any number to help you understand what it is you need to do to be a successful landlord, to offer your properties to community members. So thank you so much for bringing that training here to our home county and making it accessible. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and I do hope there's a great attendance. So thank you. All right, so with that, I will go ahead and read the proclamation. This is a proclamation for the Board of Commissioners for Washington County. Fair Housing Month, April 2024. Whereas the year 2024 marks the 56th anniversary of the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act, Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 as amended, and whereas this law guarantees that housing throughout the United States should be made available to all community members without regard to race, color, religion, gender, familial status, disability, or national origin. And whereas Oregon fair housing law guarantees that housing throughout the state of Oregon should be made available to all community members without regard to marital status, sources of income, sexual orientation, including gender identity, and survivors of domestic violence. And whereas equality and opportunity for all is a fundamental policy of this nation, state, and county. And whereas barriers which diminish the rights and limit the options of any community member will ultimately diminish the rights of all community members. And whereas only with the cooperation, commitment, and support from all of the residents of Washington County can barriers to the enjoyment of this and the other aspects of equality of opportunity for all be removed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Washington County's Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims April 2024 to be Fair Housing Month and encourages all community members to support and endorse fair housing, reaffirm their commitment to fair housing for all, and wholeheartedly recognize these rights and responsibilities throughout the year.
And with that, Commissioners, would you like to could we have a motion to adopt said proclamation?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. And with that, if you could all raise your hand in support of said proclamation, that's wonderful. Thank you, colleagues. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Now, we do have a little bit of a problem. We've been asked to capture a picture with you, but out by the posters. We need to be quick about that. So if we could do that, promise, we'll be right back. We're just doing it out in the hallway. We'll take to that.
Great.
Please join us.
Hey, I got a tax question for you.
Nafisa, are we going to be up front?
We're doing it up front? I thought we were back.
I don't know if we're up front. I don't know. Are we doing a picture? I think we're doing one here now. Okay.
Same group, next problem.
Yeah.
Glasses anyone?
that's a little legwork.
Yeah. Clerk Moss, do they still want us to reconvene as a board in front of the hallway posters later?
I do not think so, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for our fourth proclamation, well, we're going to keep going. Proclaim April 2024 as National Community Development Month in Washington County. Number 3 of 4. Hello, Shannon Wilson and Eden Lopez. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. Thanks again for this opportunity to be with you this morning. So April is also National Community Development Month. I did want to share that, so Eden Lopez, who is a city councilor with the city of Cornelius and on our policy advisory board, was going to join us this morning, but he was not able to due to illness. And so Lauren Kalo from our office will be reading the proclamation for us. So I do just have a brief presentation. I know you've had a full meeting, so I will just walk through it quickly. So highlights, Community Development Week is celebrated nationally. And often it has been a week, but this year it is a full month in honor of the 50th anniversary of the Community Development Block Grant Program. So that program began in 1974, August 1974. And here in Washington County, it began in 1979. And so since that time, over $112 million has been invested in infrastructure projects, public facility projects, single-family housing rehab projects, and key public services that benefit low and moderate income households in the county. And so some of the highlights of those, hard to sum up 50 years and in a slide. But just a variety of projects that have been funded through the Community Development Block Grant Program. So acquisition, construction, and rehab of several senior centers throughout the county. Acquisition, construction, and rehab of also community centers and shelters, fire stations, and libraries throughout several cities throughout the full geography of Washington County. Supporting critical home repairs for over 1,200 low-income, elderly, and disabled households. And these are households who otherwise likely would not be able to remain in their homes without these significant repairs being completed that make their home habitable. Supporting water system infrastructure projects throughout the county, sidewalk and other infrastructure improvements, and then key public services for low-income households and people experiencing homelessness. So we do have just a couple of photos of some of those historic projects. So the Senior Center in 1989, when it was first acquired, street improvements in the city of Tigard, Virginia Garcia Dental Clinic, and the Gaston Fire Station. And then some more current projects. So in the past year, this is one that is just completing now its final kind of punch list of items. So nearly $1 million of Community Development Block Grant funds invested in the city of Banks and their water line replacement. So this provides them additional connectivity as well as a backstop. So in case of an event that damages part of their water line, they now have a backup system so they can still provide water in case of that emergency. Another featured project, so this project is funded with our Home Investment Partnerships Program, which is another federal fund we administer from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and is part of our celebration of Community Development Month. And so this one we invested $1.2 million, and it's combined with Metro Affordable Housing Bond funds, state and city resources, and the county's Housing Production Opportunity Fund. And this is 116 units in Tualatin. And the namesake of this project, Doug Plambeck, was a personal mentor of mine, and so is part of the reason that I'm here with you today. So it's great to be able to feature this project named after him. Here's our community development team. As part of One Washington County, we are a small and mighty team. And so many of us are here with you today. And so just thank you for the opportunity to administer these funds in the county and work with many of the community-based organizations and partners throughout the county. And also want to recognize our advisory body, which is a policy advisory board. And so Commissioner Treese serves on that board representing Washington County. And so thank you for your service, Commissioner. And then also just wanted to highlight the other counselors and the mayor of Banks that serve on that policy advisory board as well. And so to reiterate the value of the proclamation, proclaiming Community Development Month provides an important opportunity to recognize the investment that these different programs, especially Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnerships Program, have made within the county, both in the last year and over the past 50 years of the CDBG program. So with that, I'll ask Lauren to read the proclamation.
Good afternoon, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. So whereas the month of April 2024 has been designated as National Community Development Month by the National Community Development Association to celebrate the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnerships Program, 2024 has been designated for the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the CDBG program. And whereas the CDBG program provides annual funding and flexibility to local communities to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing, a suitable living environment, and economic opportunities to low and moderate income people. And whereas the Home Investment Partnerships Program provides funding to local communities to create decent, safe, affordable housing opportunities for low-income persons. Nationally, over 1 million units of affordable housing have been completed using home funds. And over the past 5 years, our community has received a total of $10,767,612 in CDBG funds and $8,568,144 in home funds. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Commissioners designates the month of April 2024 as National Community Development Month in support of these two valuable programs that have tremendous contributions to the viability of the housing stock, infrastructure, public services, and economic well-being of our community, and to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the CDBG program. Be it further resolved that the Washington County Board of Commissioners urges Congress to recognize the outstanding work being done locally and nationally by the CDBG and home programs by supporting increased funding for both programs in FY 2024. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Washington County.
Wow.
Like, am I supposed to read
You don't have to worry about
Okay.
saying that part.
Okay.
What I have to do as part of signing this thing, don't worry. So commissioners, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Lauren. Really appreciate your bringing that to life. And 50 years of a program is notable. And thank you to Congress and our presidential administrations for reinvesting federal tax dollars into our local communities. And I appreciate the presentation, which has highlighted how all across Washington County, these dollars have been reinvested to help improve the safety of our communities for everyone who lives here. With that, commissioners, do we have a motion? Yes, we have a motion.
I am honored to make the motion here, and I'm also honored to thank the staff for their dedication and their work for our community. You all do a great job. Thank you very much, and I so move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? It is unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. Everyone, please do celebrate National Community Development Month. Okay, some would say we've saved the best for last, but what we've really done is saved a first ever acknowledgement of furthering the cultural and ethnic diversity and appreciating that here in Washington County. We are, for the first time ever, recognizing Arab American Heritage Month here in Washington County. I would like to invite Dora Perry, our interim Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, to come forward and introduce our various guests of honor who will be bringing this opportunity for life, and then afterwards to ask my colleagues and I, as well as others here in our audience, for a photographic opportunity. Do we still call them that since they're digital? To memorialize the occasion. So please, Ms. Perry, take it away.
Good afternoon, Chair Harrington and Vice Chair, Phi, and Commissioners. I have allergies, so I'm sorry about how my voice is. For the record, my name is Dora Perry, serving as your interim Deputy Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. I just first want to extend my deepest gratitude to you for granting us the opportunity to commence the Arab American Heritage Month celebration through the reading of the proclamation in this esteemed space. Thank you. At this point, I would first like our guest speakers to briefly introduce themselves before we move on. So I'll hand it to you. Go ahead.
I go first. Hello. Good to see you and meet you all, and thank you, and I'm happy to be here. My name is Taghreed Khouri. Everybody calls me Tag in Portland, which makes everybody's life easier. I am a Jordanian national American, originally Palestinian, from Nablus, which is a city some 50 miles north of Jerusalem. I've been in Oregon since the early 80s. I went to PSU for both my graduate degrees, and my daughter was born in Portland, Oregon, and my only child. And I did international consulting work for the United Nations and other international development organizations, mostly in the Middle East. And then I've been teaching at Portland State as an adjunct professor for more than 20 years, and I teach women's studies and international studies. I have volunteered in the city of Beaverton in the Human Rights Advisory Commission for like 5 years, and I'm also a board member with ACO, the Arab American Cultural Center of Oregon, and I thank the people who invited me to be here. I'm very proud to be here and participate in the proclamation. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. And it was brought to my attention to mention that I'm Christian, which usually is not very relevant to me, but I think it's worth mentioning to say that in the Middle East and in Palestine, we have Muslims and Christians and Jews, and everybody lived together forever and evermore. So I bring this point only to make this very particular point. Sorry, and thanks again.
Such an excellent point, too.
Thank you.
My name is Layla Hiju, and I am the daughter of an Iraqi immigrant that came to the United States in the late 40s. I've been a resident of Oregon since 1983, and actually I am co-founder and president of Islamic Social Services of Oregon State, which is a nonprofit that helps anybody in need to be self-reliant for over 20 years now. I also serve at IRCO. I'm the president of the board leadership group, as well as the chair of the Greater Middle East Center Advisory Council. I was also awarded by Governor Kate Brown in 2020 with the Oregon Women Achievement Award, making me the first Arab American on the list. And I'm very heavily, actively into community work. My professional background is a software engineer in the tech industry for about 40 years, and when I retired, I just put everything I have into community work.
So before I hand it over to hand over the floor for the proclamation reading, please allow me to offer some introductory remarks on the significance of our cultural heritage celebrations. And as El Nasser, who is back there, a member of the Developmental Disabilities Division, passionately advocated for the celebration of Arab American Heritage Month. And as, along with a dedicated committee comprising of our very own Sam, who has been very active in her outreach and engagement to put together an amazing team committee, including Bannon, Hamid, Nadia, Faisal, Zara, Aika. Also, Maggie from the city of Hillsboro, and Lorena from Clean Water Services. They've been tirelessly working on the proclamation and the implementation of events since February. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the members of the Arab American Heritage Proclamation. Their dedication exemplifies the spirit of inclusivity and community engagement, which in Washington County we strive to foster. These cultural celebrations serve as a gateway to fostering meaningful connections with Arab American staff and community members, as well as those who support the Arab community. They provide us with an invaluable opportunity to deepen our communities, our understanding of the diverse and vibrant Arab American communities thriving in Washington County. Additionally, they shed light on the rich cultural heritage and contributions of Arab Americans to our county and the state. Many members of the Arab American community have embarked on journeys of migration, seeking refuge from conflict, or pursuing new opportunities. Their stories of resilience and perseverance enrich our collective tapestry and serve as a testament to the strength of the human spirit. I also extend my gratitude to our guest speakers and all the attendees who have joined us and have stayed with us to support this inaugural celebration of Arab American Heritage Month in Washington County. This is really a special event. So thank you, all of you. With that, I now invite the speakers to proceed with the reading of the proclamation.
My honor. Okay, so in honor of Arab American Heritage Month, whereas the Washington County Board of Commissioners proudly recognizes April 2024 as Arab American Heritage Month, honoring this community's valuable contributions to our nation, state, and county in all aspects of society, setting fine examples of model citizens and public servants. And whereas we celebrate this year's Arab American Heritage Month theme of Arab American awareness, shining a light on the long overdue acknowledgement of this vibrant community's existence, whose heritage was only recognized in Oregon since 2021 and nationally in 2023. And whereas, since first migrating to America in the 1880s, Arab Americans have brought their strong work ethic, dedication to education, and diversity in creed, adding strength to our democracy. As a result, today nearly 3.7 million Americans are of Arab descent. And whereas almost 32,000 Arab Americans are Oregonians, and more than 6,700 of them are Washington County residents. Furthermore, Oregon has welcomed many refugees of Arab descent recently, in line with Oregon's tradition of open arms to those in need.
And whereas Victor George Atiye served as the 32nd governor of the state of Oregon from 1979 to 1987, giving the state the distinction of being the first with an elected Arab American governor. And whereas Arab Americans are designated white in the U.S. Census and thus not officially recognized as a minority, excluding them from the assistance of policies established to support such groups, while still being excluded from whiteness and its associated privileges, And whereas for over a century, Arab Americans have enjoyed long-lasting misrepresentation in the media and more recently harmful discriminatory policies targeting them, making the celebration of Arab American cultural heritage key to educating our fellow Americans of our contributions. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2024 as Arab American Heritage Month and calls upon the people of Washington County to observe this month with relevant programs, activities, and reflections to create a more inclusive, just, and prosperous world for all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioners, before I ask for a motion to adopt this proclamation for our first time ever, I would like to share from my research that in 2022, President Biden became the first U.S. president to declare April as Arab American Heritage Month in recognition of the contributions of Arab Americans to our nation's history. Americans of Arab heritage have advanced this nation's achievements in diplomacy, science, technology, as well as in art and culture. Commissioners, what are your wishes with regard to today's proclamation?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting said proclamation, please raise your hand. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And please, all of us, for memorializing this opportunity, if you'd like to join us for a picture, please do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for the record, I was also remiss in thanking our employees for bringing this opportunity forward. Thank you. I can help you. Yeah.
Be like 30 minutes delayed, 20 minutes. You're missing the memo. Yeah, come on, you gotta go. Because did you not get the memo? Can you take this one too? No, we're gonna take a picture as the committee.
So the picture you took of the group, can we get a copy so we can post it in our office?
Oh, no, I'm gonna give this to you.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna take a few more pictures. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay, is it just you guys? We just started.
She has copies of pictures that she can send us.
Yes.
Is that how you get the everybody?
Okay, well, we were gonna do a smaller group.
Oh, okay.
You wanna take pictures? Yeah, yeah. No, they were doing something. Okay, let's do it because we have to. We have to hurry. All of us? We need to hurry. Okay, okay, let's go. We can go outside and speak again.
Thank you so much.
Oh, wait,
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, folks. We have some more official business to do. So we have an ordinance that we need to consider and have a public hearing for. For all of our staff and community members who have been patiently waiting for this ordinance, I thank you very much for doing so. Today, we have ordinance number 900 to consider, and I need to ask for a motion to read this ordinance by title only.
So moved.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. Ordinance 900, an ordinance amending the transportation system plan element of the comprehensive plan relating to general updates.
Thank you. We're going to have a brief staff report, presentation, and then we'll move to the public hearing. Please, take it away.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Diami Valentine, Principal Transportation Planner, and with me is Steve Kelly, Senior Planner, who will walk through the staff report.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have before you today ordinance number 900. We do these somewhat frequently, every few years, as a general update to catch up with other ongoing planning efforts for consistency. These periodic updates for consistency are important so that the transportation plans themselves are consistent and staff is able to respond to development applications knowing what the criteria is, as well as applicants and our community are able to understand the expectations from the various plans that are out there. So ordinance number 900 has amendments to the major elements of the transportation system plan, including the roadway system, the pedestrian, bicycle, and transit system elements. You also have the first ordinance for a transportation system plan that has been filed in compliance with the new transportation planning rules, the climate-friendly and equitable communities rules. We will intend to be back later in 2024 with an ordinance to comply with the parking elements of those rules. And there are also further additional changes to our transportation plan that we will endeavor to address under future ordinances. Ordinance 900 is an interim update to the transportation system plan, and it was filed after the recent rule amendments that were adopted in November. Ordinance 900 proposes to amend the county's transportation system plan. The transportation system plan identifies the need, general location, mode, function, and function of transportation facilities. In Oregon, transportation system planning is conducted in two phases. The first phase, the transportation system plan identifies those features of the general attributes of the system to be developed, and project development identifies project specifics, including the alignment and environmental impacts, environmental permitting. Ordinance 900 is built upon the public engagement of these listed other planning processes, including The list that's up there, the City of Hillsboro's Transportation Plan Update in 2022, as well as Tigard's Transportation Plan Update in 2022, are ongoing Council Creek Regional Trail Planning and TriMet's service, Forward Together service concept. At its February 21st public hearing, the Planning Commission reviewed Ordinance 900 and recommended adoption to this board unanimously. The City of Hillsboro's Transportation Planning Update was a several-year process. The main component of that was the update of their comprehensive bicycle plan. They identified the bicycle facilities throughout the city that would be located on each side of the major facilities throughout the city. I was really impressed with their bicycle plan element here. My clicker's not working. There we go. Only one slide, good. The City of Tigard's Transportation Plan Update was a summation of their other planning efforts, including Tigard's Complete Streets Policy, Tigard Triangle Strategic Plan, and the Washington Square Regional Center Plan as three of the main elements up there that I thought were most important. The roadway system changes in Ordinance 900 are included in Exhibit 1 to the ordinance. They include amendments to the functional classification system map, the lane numbers map. They also, Ordinance 900 proposes to remove 2 refinement areas where the planning has been completed for those refinement areas. And finally, there's a special right-of-way needs added for Jackson School Road that clarifies that the Jackson School Road improvements would be located within the urban growth boundary, and this is north of Evergreen, going up towards Highway 26. There are also amendments to the pedestrian and bicycle system. The amendments to the pedestrian system focus on the regional trails. Exhibit 2, pages 5 and 7, would remove the refinement area for our Council Creek Regional Trail and replace the refinement area with the generalized alignment of the trail. Trail designations in the county's transportation system plan identify the function on the network. The details of how those would be implemented are defined during project development. There's also amendments to our bicycle system plan. These include several additional roadways that are recommended to be classified as enhanced major street bikeways. And as you may recall, all arterials and collectors in Washington County are identified as major street bikeways and would have some form of either a bike lane or a buffered bike lane under the plan. The enhanced facilities would include either a buffered bike lane or a separated cycle track or similar type of facility. Furthermore, Ordinance 900 contains elements to the transit element of the plan. Most of those are focused on TriMet's Forward Together service concept that addresses the local bus network and reflects evolving travel patterns that we've seen post-pandemic. The system is no longer such a hub and spoke demand, but it's focused on more of a grid system. And so the TriMet is responding to that, and we're moving to be consistent with their plans for different types of service that are out there. The transit system changes include TriMet's local bus service amendments, as well as changes to the interregional transit service. The community connector service amendments are listed on Exhibit 2, pages 33 and 34, and incorporates the locally preferred alternative for the Southwest Corridor. It's finally our opportunity to come back post the Federal Register designation for the Southwest Corridor and incorporate that into the county's plan. We recognize that will likely change over time, but at least we're caught up to the moment. The changes to the transit element do not yet include the county's transit study. The county's transit study will inform our next major transportation system plan update, and that update may need to consider different classifications as well as prioritize transit corridors. As I mentioned at the outset, there are new procedures for the findings of consistency with statewide goals. The transportation planning rule has been amended and includes major changes throughout Oregon's planning system. Furthermore, the Oregon Highway Plan and Metro's Regional Transportation Functional Plan are also being updated, but we include consistency with them as they currently are provided. So our recommendation today is that you conduct the public hearing and at the conclusion of the public hearing, adopt Ordinance 900, and by separate agenda item, adopt the associated findings. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for bringing all of that to life, including helping us appreciate why this work is important and different elements, summary elements of the different parts. It really did help me, after all. Thank you so much. Okay. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I would like to open the public hearing on Ordinance 900. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up prior or during the meeting. Would anyone in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard the staff report for up to 2 minutes, just raise your hand or come forward. Not seeing anyone in the room. Would any member online via Zoom wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard the staff report, give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss, for being very efficient with all of that. And with that, I will close today's public hearing. And we have an ordinance on the table. So Clerk Moss, could you do the roll call? Wait, I forgot to ask for a motion to adopt Ordinance 900.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate that. We have a motion and a second. Clerk Moss, roll call, please.
Commissioner Treese?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Vice Chair Fye?
Aye.
Chair Harrington?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for our team for doing this outstanding work. Really appreciate it. Now we have findings to adopt to support that ordinance. So we have a resolution before us to adopt the findings for ordinance number 900, an ordinance amending the transportation system plan elements of the comprehensive plan relating to general updates. What are the wishes of the commission?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt these findings. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? That too passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Next, we move to our second public comment period for this Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to come and speak to us today?
I did not see anyone sign up in the room or throughout the meeting. Would any member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on any county-related item for up to 5 minutes? Give me just a moment to raise your hand or come forward. Not seeing anyone in the room. Would any member online via Zoom wish to provide public comment for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Madam Chair.
No one taking advantage of that opportunity today. That's okay. It's been a long meeting. We welcome you, though. Please do consider coming back another day. Next, we have board announcements. We have our roundtable meeting for the month of April this Thursday starting at 9. We've got a long agenda for that meeting. Next Tuesday, April 9th, work session starts at 9 a.m. It's just work session day. We'll have a lot of good stuff. Then we have an unusual annual meeting, or the date's a little unusual. We have an annual joint Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting with the Fair Board, and that'll be happening this next Friday, April 12th, starting at 10:30 a.m. The location you can find right on the county website, washingtoncountyor.gov. On Monday, April 15th, we're kicking off our budget season for the next budget year. For all of our budget committees, and you heard about a whole handful of them today, we'll be having a budget committees orientation starting at 6 p.m. That's Monday, April 15th. Location information on our county website. Tuesday, April 16th, we have our pair of meetings. Work session starts at 9, then we'll reconvene after we complete the board meeting, which starts at 10. We have another special event for the board to participate in, invitation only, to the Washington County Public Safety and Justice Forum, 6 p.m. Thursday the 18th. Then on Tuesday the 23rd, we have our pair of meetings, work session in the afternoon, work session in the afternoon at 2 p.m., board meeting that evening starting at 6:30. Then we really have a big bang kickoff of our budget committee work for the next fiscal year. Ms. Angie will be presenting her proposed budget to all of us in the budget committees on Monday, April 29th. We would be thrilled to have you join us here in the auditorium, I think at 6 p.m. If not, we'll also have that meeting by Zoom, but we hope you'll join us. It's important work, and it's just all part of one Washington County. So that's it for my board announcements. Commissioners, do you have any to move forward? Okay, before we take a motion to adjourn, we had been slated to reconvene in work session starting at 1. That, of course, is not workable because everyone deserves having a lunch break. So,
The agenda shows 1:30.
oh, well, it is 1:30, which is just a slim 40 minutes away, sufficient for everyone?
We're good. Yep.
Okay, so we will reconvene in work session starting at 1:30. I wasn't so sure about that. So thank you very much. Can we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. We are hereby adjourned. Thank you.